Welcome to a special edition of the Pitch Side podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment to the YouTube version, and of course, follow us on social media and listen on every podcast listening platform available. Welcome to this special episode. We're going to be covering the African World Cup playoffs qualifiers to the World Cup in Qatar. We start chronologically, of course, from the first game of the day was Democratic Republic of Congo versus Morocco. This game sounded like, on paper, like the easiest of the games for Morocco, but was definitely harder than what was expected. Of course, Congo played this game with a 4-4-2 classic lineup, playing on the long ball, defensive sounding lineup. Of course, Hector Cooper was the coach. He was a former Egyptian coach before, and Egyptian fans, I think in particular, know exactly what he's all about. There's players that you might recognise from top European football: Cedric Bakambu, Yohan Wissa from Brentford, Chancellor Mbembe playing in Porto, on the bench as well. There's Zanik Bolasie, former Crystal Palace player, and they have as well, the likes of Ben Malango, plays in Raja Casablanca. So that's some well-known side, really, of course, aside from the players that play in Congo, in Mozambique, and Vita Club, and all of that. So definitely, on the other side, Morocco played a more conservative game, a more conservative lineup, considering they were away from home, considering the squad that they had. They were missing certain players, but definitely it was the substitutes who made the impact, I think, on this game the most. The first half was, I would say, pretty average for Morocco. I think Congo were the better side. Certainly scoring the first goal, it was behind Achraf Hakimi on his right side, of course, which is, I think, a consistent problem as far as Morocco is concerned. Always, they concede goals on that way. It happened in the African Cup of Nations, and it's happened here. But after that, I think Morocco took the game by the scruff of the neck, took a little bit more control, and, the substitutes, again, made the difference. Faisal Fajr introduced in the second half. Ayoub Al-Kabi, who's introduced in the second half, was for the assist for the goal that was scored, the equaliser, by Tarek Tissoudali. Of course, they made the difference almost instantly. Both entered in around 70 minutes, and in 76 minutes, the goal was scored for Morocco by Tarek Tissoudali and assisted by Ayoub Al-Kabi, which proves, I think, that the local players have much say in what the national team should look like. Youssouf N'Seiri didn't do much at all in the game, was not that good, of course, because Congo were pretty tight in the back. They didn't allow any sort of space for them to play in, and definitely, did the best of jobs they could until the goal was scored on the first proper ball that got into the box, really, for Morocco, as far as long balls is concerned. After that, Congo had a couple of opportunities. They could have scored another goal, but, Yassine Bono was there to save some good chances, of course, for the likes of, Cedric Bakambu or Ben Malango, who was on late on, Theo Bongonda as well. And, of course, a red card for Congo meant that the game, at the very likeliest, would end 1-1, and there would be no other goals from Congo. Morocco tried, but they couldn't really hit the target. They didn't have dangerous chances after the equaliser. But it definitely will take the draw back to Morocco. They will take it home. The game is not going to be easy at home. The advantage is not that big, but definitely it puts Morocco in a much favourable position than what will be if they lost 1-0 in this game. Hopefully for them, they finished their job in the second leg and they beat Congo to go through to Cameroon. And of course, it was Cameroon versus Algeria, a game that for Algerians it was, the most important game in a while, because it's based on the disappointment of the African Cup of Nations, the exit from the group stages and all. And certainly the Algerian Federation was wise not to sack Jamal Belmadi, not to deny him the rest of the experience, and they continue with him. The game was pretty different, I would say, for Algeria from what we usually see from them. It was a mostly defensive game. They played 5 at the back. At times, of course, they tried to make, or it almost looked like a 5-3-2, but definitely realistically speaking, on the application was more of a 3-4-2-1, kind of the Atalanta style, with Riyad Mahrez and Youssef Belaili becoming both number 10s behind Islam Slimani, the goal scorer, of course, on the day. The midfield was Ismail Ben Nasser, Amazrouki, who did a fairly decent job albeit it was more for the centre-halves, I think, who did a really good job. Abdelkader Badran, who went down injured, of course. Hopefully it's not a very, very bad thing, although he was substituted pretty late, so there's that at the very least. Issa Mendy had a great game as well. Raisam Bulhi saved a couple of opportunities for Algeria, denying Cameroon the opportunities, particularly after the goal that Algeria scored in the 40th minute for Islam Slimani, ending the first half leading 1-0. The goal came on a set piece, which was a problem for Cameroon, I think, in the African Cup of Nations as well, and they really capitalised on set pieces really well. Algeria, the cross from Yusuf Benaili and the goal from Slimani. This game, of course, witnessed a stoppage for around 7 to 10 minutes because of the lighting in the stadium being bad. I mean, the problems did not stop with the African Cup of Nations. They continue here. So what is wrong with Cameroon, really, you have to ask. But definitely it was a great defensive performance, very resilient performance. Didn't allow Cameroon much, although they had some chances to equalise. Cameroon, of course, on the other hand, bringing a new coach, Rigobert Song, the legend in Cameroon, after sacking Sergio Conceição after the African Cup of Nations. It's a good experience, I think, for Algeria. A big victory, obviously, to take home next week. I mean, it's most important, again, in these situations for the sides that are playing away to not concede goals, to keep the clean sheet, which gives them double the advantage when it comes to the qualification with victories like these. Of course, the atmosphere will be great in Algeria, that's for sure, and definitely they will be playing a better game, maybe a more offensive game, where they'll be looking to finish the job for good and, qualify to the World Cup with a bang, really, and qualify in a way that really satisfies the fans and makes them forget the disappointment of the African Cup of Nations just a month and a half ago. For Cameroon, it's another bad day in the office, really. They tried, they did look good at certain stages, but they never really looked threatening at the very in a big way for most of the game until the last 15 or 10 minutes, where they ramped up the pressure, looking, of course, for that equaliser in a very big urgency. Hopefully for Algeria as well, just like Morocco, they will continue the game and they will finish the job in Algiers next week. Next up, of course, we're going to be talking about Tunisia versus Mali, or Mali versus Tunisia. The game was away in Bamako. This was, let's put it this way, this was as lucky of a victory as it would come for us. Surely we were looking for a much better performance. The lineup we played with, 4-3-3, I thought was the best we could have played with in terms of the squad that we had, the injuries that were blazing us. Of course, Abi Kazri was not there, Bilal Aifa was not there, Dylan Braun was not there, defensive and offensive issues, and I thought it's definitely the best lineup we could have. At least in the midfield, we guaranteed certain work rate and quality with the Shalani and Baramvan, the Esperance Tunis players who've been performing really well in the Champions League for Esperance and doing so well with their club that they deserve to start both in the side, of course, and Walias Khiri as well being injured, so that was an extra option in terms of the midfield. But it was weird how we dealt with the game, particularly after the goal and the red card. The goal, of course, was an own goal from Mali's Moussa Sissoko, not Sissoko, because the other one is French, the former Tottenham player. But Moussa Sissoko is an academy player in PSG. Actually, this is his first game with Mali, believe it or not. And it was such a tough experience, I would say, for him to start, to start games like these. Where with Mali, he definitely, this is his kind of his big moment, I thought, with Mali, but he really ruined it, in my opinion. Of course, an own goal and a red card to boot after just 4 minutes of the goal. It really hurts in terms of Mali, but of course, it was all about Tunisia dealing with the game and managing the game, and the management of the game was pretty weird, I thought, for Tunisia, because after the red card, the expected thing is, at the very least, for us to control the ball, to be more calm on the ball, to try and, dominate the game a little bit, make Mali run some kilometers around, exhaust the Malian players, but it wasn't to be. The management of the game was pretty weird, and it didn't please me a bit. Like the second half, we caved in even more in the second half. We got two midfielders and one striker, and we're basically playing 4-5-1, and we caved in at the back in a way that I didn't really understand it. In some way, they got even more offensive changes because they knew that that we were cave in, and they knew that we were regressing back for some reason. They got in Moussa Djenepo in, of course, the Southampton player. They got in Salou Guindo, Moussa Doumbia, Adama Traore, the player from Sheriff Tiraspol, and we got midfielders and defenders on. It was weird. It was really weird how we managed the game. The fact is, we kept a clean sheet thanks to our centre halves on the day, and the fullbacks I didn't think did a good job. The midfield was decent, but the fullbacks in particular didn't do a good job. Adama Traore ran rampant on that left-hand side, down Ali Maloud's side. On the right-hand side, Djenepo was doing the same thing as well. They were trying to cut in and take some shots, of course. Crosses and set pieces were very dangerous. The goalkeeper on a couple of occasions, timing his run and exit late from the goalkeeper position almost made us pay for it on a couple of times, although it was a little bit of miscommunication between him and the defenders more than his own mistakes. Overall, I think the only thing I'm satisfied about is the clean sheet. Really, the performance is not satisfying in a bit. The only positive that I would take from this is that we didn't concede, that we won 1-0, which is a big advantage heading home on Tuesday, and obviously we need to play a better game on Tuesday, because surely we cannot be worse than what we were on Friday here against Mali. Mali, on the other hand, I didn't feel that they were dangerous enough only when we give them the chance, because when we regress back, when we, cave in defensively, we gave them the opportunity to roll with the ball, to control the ball, and to really dominate and pin us to our defense. It was really, really apparent what they have, really. They didn't have, like real one-on-ones. We didn't create a lot of spaces for them, but they were dangerous whenever they tried to play the crosses inside the box, whenever they tried to play set pieces, whenever they were running down the flanks to the right and the left, of course. The midfield, at least the midfield was not as immense as it was in the African Cup of Nations game. Abdoulaye Doucouré, I thought his first game with Mali was not that good. Yves Bissouma as well, for his standards in the Premier League, was not that good. Maybe the weather, the sort of temperature, and the atmosphere changed for them a little bit from the Premier League. Obviously, we're in the middle of March, and it was like 40 degrees Celsius in Mali. Overall, clean sheet. You get to home, you're playing your game on Tuesday, and you need every bit of fit players that you can have. Obviously, Cassidy probably will return in the second leg. He will be available. At least that's another option we could play up front. And certainly in front of our own fans, we need to be better than that. And we need to be attacking. And just like Algeria, in my opinion, we need to play emphatically and win the game emphatically. That's what we need. And that's what we have to do in the second leg of the game in Tunisia. And hopefully, I think we're close to qualifying. Hopefully, we'll finish a job as well. And we go to the World Cup. And then, of course, it was the biggest, I suppose, game of the five ties. It was the rerun from the final of the African Cup of Nations, Egypt playing against Senegal in Cairo. And let's not mince words about this. This was a similar feeling to the final itself. This was a similar feeling to the final of 2019 in Cairo, because an early goal for Egypt, an own goal from Salih Ossis inside 4 minutes, makes the game hard really for Senegal, makes them running behind the result, and Egypt, I think from there, I'm not going to say caved in defending, but mostly played defensive, really. Starting with, a 4-3-3, then basically became 4-4-2 whenever they were defending, with Trezeguet moving to the left, covering on the left back. The midfield, I thought, was good, particularly the centre halves. I suppose Mohamed Abdelmonem, of course, the centre half that was great in the African Cup of Nations, was substituted for Yasser Ibrahim in the 39th minute, and the substitute really delivered a great game as well. Abdou Diallo from Senegal also went down injured early on in the game and was replaced by Pape Cissé. Senegal dominated the game. We're not going to really talk anything about this. They dominated the game. They created loads of opportunities. They created overlaps. Sadio Mane was immense. He tried to create every opportunity he could get in the second half. Ismail Assar on the right-hand side did the same thing as well. They created all sorts of opportunities, right, left, and centre. But Shenawi saved a lot of great chances for Senegal. You have, the defenders being immense. Edouard Mendy was not that much tested. I think aside from the goal, nothing really came close to sort of worrying him in any kind of way inside the box, for example, or one-on-one situations. Egypt, were not the better side, but obviously they will take the victory. It's still a hard game in Senegal. The second leg is not going to be easy at all. The 1-0 result is not as convincing or as satisfying or as, let's say, guaranteeing and secure as it sounds in Senegal. Everything could change. There's no guarantees that what happened today, and they could deliver the same 90 minutes in Senegal, of course, with the atmosphere and the pressure of the crowd for Senegal expected there in Dakar. It will definitely be a really hard game to focus on for the Egyptian side, who really made a lot of effort in trying to defend the game. I mean, obviously, the fans will not expect this in Cairo. They will think that they should have scored a couple more goals, but there was not a lot of opportunities for Egypt to talk about. It was basically 2 or 3 shots for the whole game. Senegal tried to create a lot from every side of the pitch. The midfield was immense. I think the good thing about the Egyptian midfield was that they covered really well in front of the centre halves. They created a good block that denied Senegal any opportunity to run from the middle and from the depth of the pitch and right ahead of the goalkeeper. They forced to play wide, but even then they were dangerous. And if it wasn't for the 2-on-1s that Egypt were trying to create with their midfielders and their runners, it looked like Sadio Mane almost had the better of the right back of Egypt, Omar Gamber, in every single situation, 1-on-1. Sometimes he even beats them in the 1-on-2 situations. That's how high of quality he has. Certain decision making went wrong for Senegal in terms of making better decisions would result in better opportunities and maybe even a goal. So surely this is going to be a disappointing outing for Senegal. Obviously, a great victory for Egypt, and now they have the hardest part of the job to do, is to go to Senegal and play, I'm not going to say the same performance, but something pretty close, at least defensively. They need to track back, and they need to cover really, really well. For Senegal, this is not over for them. They will try and play the second leg in Dakar with all the intensity in the world, clearly. They still have the quality, they still have the upper hand. I'm not going to say they will qualify, but they still overtly favourites, maybe even to turn things around. It's not that far-fetched to say that Senegal can turn things around and can score 2 or 3 goals in Dakar on Egypt, unless Egypt pulls on a great performance like this one again, particularly defensively again. The centre-halves and the midfielders were absolutely fantastic. Egypt, again, will need to really dig deep in the game in Dakar if they want to keep the clean sheet again and if they want to get the result that will get them to the World Cup. It's an expected second leg. I think it will be a really, really great watch, that second leg in Dakar, and hopefully we will see some great football in there, and it's going to be a big, big game once again. And rounding things up, of course, it was Ghana versus Nigeria, the West African derby. It surprisingly ended 0-0, albeit for the Nigerian favouritism before this game. The way Ghana played in the African Cup of Nations, they didn't look good at all. Elimination from the group stages. I mean, Nigeria didn't do much better. They were eliminated in the round of 16. But clearly, this is a game where you expected Nigeria to be the better of the two sides. The quality that they have in comparison to Ghana, I mean, they're not that bad, Ghana. They have some really good players. They have the likes of Daniel Amate in the back, Thomas Partey in the midfield, Jordan Ayew up front, the Felix Afenajan, the Roma youngster, is playing, and he has to start, but unfortunately he was subbed off, injured late on in the game. Nigeria also have players who went down injured, Bonke, Innocent, and Samuel Chukwueze as well. I mean, it was a bad week for some of the players here in Nigeria. The result is surprising, but the much more surprising is the stats of the game, because Ghana were the better side and were the side who dominated the game when it could have been. Nigeria, again, two sides coming from big disappointing performances in the African Cup of Nations, and this was a chance to redeem themselves, I think, for both those sides overall. Maybe Nigeria would take this draw, I think, in comparison to what happened in the game, the injuries, as I mentioned, and not exactly the greatest of performances. Ghana would be very happy, I think, with this kind of result. At home, not very happy, although they didn't score. But again, the game in Nigeria is going to be even more intense. This is the classic, one of the classic derbies in Africa. And I really still think Nigeria would go through, but now maybe Ghana planted that seed of a doubt in the Nigerian players that they might lose it actually when the second leg takes place. Of course, it's going to be a really important game for Nigeria when they face Ghana on Tuesday in Lagos. 0-0, a result that I think satisfies the Ghanaians maybe more than the Nigerians before the game, but after the game we can easily say that Nigeria will be the happier of the two sides, taking the goalless draw to home. That's it for the episode. Thanks for watching. Like, share, comment on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, of course, enable notifications to receive all the updates, and of course, follow us on social media and listen to this episode on every podcast listening platform available. Until next time, I was with HOD of the PSP. Like, share, and subscribe, and take care of yourself. Goodbye.
Behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.